Barbara Creecy, of course, she's the Minister of Forestry and Fisheries and Environmental Affairs. Minister, good afternoon to you and thank you so much for joining us.
Good afternoon and greetings to all your viewers at home.
Well, Minister, I hope you heard the last package that we've just had. So whilst on the one hand, environmentalists are excited about this funding that we seem to be having, in South Africa, there are also concerns about is it enough? Will it be used effectively? So South Africa secured these 131 billion rands to help fund the country's just transition from coal to low carbon energy, essentially. So talk to us, Minister, about what this exactly means for the country, bearing those concerns in mind.
Well, I think that the important place to start is to say that at this point in time, what we have on the table from the developed countries is an offer of financial support for our just transition. From here, it will be important for us to put up a joint negotiating team to interrogate the details of this offer and to make sure that if we are to finally sign a deal, that deal is in line with the regulatory environment in our country, it's in line with our socio-economic objectives, and of course it speaks to a clear investment plan, so that some of the concerns that have been raised in your previous clip are thoroughly addressed.
So we know that it's
from the side of the South African government, we are putting together a high-level financial work stream that will be interrogating this offer. At the moment, we know it's a mix of grant and concessional financing, but we really need to do a lot of work to understand exactly what is on the table and how it could potentially be used before we sign any formal agreement.
Minister, whilst you are still in negotiation stages and whilst you're looking at what's on the table, one wonders, is this amount that has been, tabled enough for the program that you are trying to achieve here in South Africa and that of just transitioning? And secondly, you talk about it being a form of grant, so can South Africa afford it?
Well, I think that firstly, it's important to say that Eskom has estimated that their transition would probably cost about 4 times what is on the table. And the potential projects that could benefit from this offer also include work in the green hydrogen sector in terms of the hydrogen master plan that has been put on the table, as well as a transition to electric vehicle manufacturing. So these are all the different areas that this offer could cover. Obviously, what we understand is that concessional financing and grant financing can open up the possibility of loan financing at reduced rates. So obviously, where you are dealing, for example, in the green hydrogen sector or in the electric vehicle sector, where there would be commercial activities involved, obviously there would be a revenue stream for the repayment of loans that would be taken. I think that with regard to Eskom, what we're very concerned about is that we have to support a just transition that involves reskilling, upskilling of workers. We have to ensure that this transition benefits communities in Mpumalanga that at the moment are highly dependent on the coal value chain. We have to ensure that we are creating new enterprises and that these enterprises are linked to the repurposing of the 8 to 10 coal-fired power stations that are due for decommissioning in terms of the 2019 independent resource program. So I think that we are as concerned as anybody else about the issues that have been tabled in this discussion this afternoon. And the purpose of setting up financial expertise is to make sure that in the negotiations we get a situation that moves at a pace that our country can afford, and that obviously gives us the best outcome in terms of the utilization of the resources that have been offered.
Minister, not too long ago, the Prime Minister of Barbados gave a very impassioned plea to leaders, that rich countries should really double their climate aid and not, kind of handle it in the manner in which they are currently doing so, especially for developing countries, countries in Africa particularly. What's your take on that?
Well, I think South Africa is on record for articulating that the availability of finance to support the transition of developing countries to low carbon economies and climate resilient futures is going to be the make or break of COP26, just as it was at COP25 in Madrid. We, in July, in a ministerial meeting convened by the COP president, indicated that we believe in the post-2025 era we should have a situation where finance increases from a floor of $100 billion per annum to a ceiling of somewhere in the region of $750 billion per annum. And we, together with the rest of the African bloc, are articulating this position because we understand that many developing countries are not in a position to take commercial loans, and that if they were forced into this situation, it would exacerbate their already severely indebted situation. So we absolutely agree with those developing countries who are saying that access to affordable and grant and concessional financing at COP26 is going to be a fundamental determinant in whether or not these climate change negotiations are successful.
And Minister, given that the renewable sources provide only a small percentage of our energy and that nuclear power is also so expensive, what can we realistically do to get off fossil fuels as soon as possible as a country?
Well, I think the current IRP makes it clear that we can increase renewables to almost 30% of existing energy supply. Clearly, a mix of energy sources is very important for energy security. And we saw from the announcements made by Minister Mantashe 2 weeks ago of bid window 5 that renewable energy has decreased considerably in price. I think the early bid windows were several rand per kilowatt. Now we're talking about 42 cents. So one can see that this is an energy source that is affordable. And when it is mixed with other technologies such as battery storage and pump storage, it can also be a reliable form of energy source.
Minister, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Really do appreciate it. Minister of Forestry and Fisheries and Environmental Affairs, Barbara Creecy, they're coming to us live from Glasgow.